And, okay,
She,
so that would have been her, yeah.
she used to be the.
She used to be with that she signed. So in this agreement, it seems to me that everybody that's involved with SPAN is supposed to also have their signature on file with us. So if you'll just make sure that everybody does sign this and update it. Okay.
I will, thank you.
And then Jason has the combination. It's very important though that we do have that combination, that if a dog is in there and something does happen, so that Jason, I believe he has that combination.
Yeah,
The fire chief, yeah, our fire chief.
there are actually 2 padlocks
Okay.
on the gate, and we put the padlocks through the padlock.
Mhm.
So the fire department has their padlock, which they unlock,
Okay,
and SPAN has the other one, which they unlock, so
Okay.
everybody's happy.
just make sure everybody's, okay, okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Anything anybody's doing for the animals, we greatly appreciate. Okay, do we have any other public comments at this time? That's it, no more public comments? Okay. We do have the proclamation for the Veterans Memorial. We're going to, at this time, move that to the August meeting, if that is acceptable to everyone.
They're not here.
They're not here, so we're gonna move it. Okay, so then we're gonna go into our, your what? Your hot?
No, I said it's probably too hot.
Oh.
They're good folks.
Okay. Mr. Leary, do you want to, or do you want Ms. Peacock to handle
I'll be happy to do it.
item number
Very-
7, which is our budget and approve the preliminary millage?
Yes, we're required by statute to submit a preliminary millage rate to the property appraiser. I think it's by July the 12th, and is that right? Anyway, we have to submit it to them, and so, you know, we're recommending that we retain the same millage as last year, 8.5914 mils. For the upcoming fiscal year. So we need a motion for adoption, and then we will, if approved, we will submit this to the property appraiser's office.
I submitted that.
Go ahead. That's
My
okay.
question is if we okay this right now, and then we have a budget meeting later on in the month, how can we say that the millage is going to be enough to cover the budget, or?
We really can't go higher.
We can't go higher.
So we can't go
This
higher.
is it.
So they give us that dollar amount and they.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I need to know. I mean,
And we think we can, you know, we can adequately cover the budget for next year at this millage rate, because this is not the rollback rate. So there will be additional taxable value that's on the roll, unless you want
You want to add to that?
We can always go down, we can't go up.
Right.
okay, no, I just needed to
So-
understand that in my.
I do have a
Okay,
question.
Commissioner DeVito, let me, Commissioner Burton, do you have anything more?
No.
Okay, Commissioner DeVito?
Sure, so I'm not sure I understand why we cannot go higher than this. There's a 10 mil cap, correct? But we have-
Correct.
So do we have something else that counts between this and the 10 mils?
Do we have, don't follow your question.
For example, we used to participate in the county's MSTU for fire services, which I understood counted toward our 10 mil cap. This says the millage rate is 8.5914.
Correct, which is the current millage rate.
Correct. So, but so we're capped at that, not.
You don't have to be capped at that. I mean, that's a decision of the commission. I mean, you can
If
certainly
you
go
do that,
higher,
then you're going to be raising taxes.
but
No, I understand that.
yeah, with this particular rate, this also doesn't, this isn't the rollback rate. So essentially, we are going up in taxes because there'll be additional ad valorem values come on to the tax roll. So if you don't think this is high enough, and we're just making it as a recommendation, then you can certainly set it higher. And as the finance director said, you can always go down, but you can't go up.
Right, and we had this discussion, I think, last year, which I just want to make sure everybody understands that. I understand Last year was a little more scary because we were looking at the pandemic and we talked about raising it just in case. And I think the analysis was that you just raising the rate, which would of course be a tax increase, even if we only did it just in case, it would actually just provide another $40,000, and none of us thought that that was necessary. And we're not anticipating anything dire this year. My question is, there's a letter here from Tim Parker with the estimated total taxable value. It doesn't say how that compares to last year.
It's just a little bit higher than last year, just a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know how many thousand, but it was not that much. I can get those figures for you if you need them.
It wasn't a significant increase.
Great. Okay, so where would, you're saying this is the rollback rate?
This
But,
is not the rollback rate.
okay,
The
but
rollback rate would be less.
but only slightly, because it's
Correct.
the estimated total taxable value is listed as 78,588,156. So basically, that is what we are talking about. We're talking about the 8.59 mils on this.
Correct.
So if we did a rollback, it would be for a very small amount. Okay,
When Finance Director, Mayor.
Right now, our current ad valorem taxes, we're at 96% of our projected. And we still have July, August, and September that we may get money. We're only $25,000 below what we projected we were going to get.
yeah, great.
Okay. Do we have any more questions, commissioners? Commissioner Banks, you good? Commissioner West? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the preliminary millage rate?
I so move.
Okay, do we have a second? We have a motion, we have a second to approve the preliminary millage rate. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. This time, we're gonna have the sheriff's office report. And we have Lieutenant Faber here today. It looks like the plane must have, he made it, okay.
My name is George Traver. I'm the East District Lieutenant, which makes me Captain Mustrie's assistant for this area. I don't know if I haven't met all of you, so let me give you a little bit about my background. I've been with the Sheriff's Office 24 years. Before that, I had 7 years in fire rescue, and I actually worked down here on rescue for a while. I'm fairly familiar with the city. And I think y'all got a copy of this. We had 4 crimes down here that we investigated this month.
Let me interrupt you for just a minute. I think there was more updated, there was an updated
The
one.
ones that
that was-
were on the desks.
That's your
was
updated.
the
report.
updated
Okay,
one.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure they.
The only
knew that.
change was, there was a word change from unlocked to locked and then case numbers.
Okay,
So we had a total of 176 cases or calls for service inside the city limits. Some of those are self-generated by the officers, and some of those are actual calls for service. But that's the total of what we did inside the city limits. We had 35 traffic stops and we worked 4 traffic crashes. The actual crime investigations that we did, there was a theft from 904 Lime Street. It's still an active case. Gentleman had a firearm stolen out of his locked van. This was kind of a unique case because they actually busted a window to get in. We very rarely have car burglaries where they break windows. Usually it's an unlocked car and they're just pulling door handles. This appears to be that the suspect knew there was a gun in the vehicle and he busted the window to get access to it. There is a person that's been identified in that case. Detectives are looking for him to interview him on the case. We had a theft at 427 North Summit Street. It was actually some individuals that were breaking into the change vaults and the vacuum cleaners up here at the car wash. And that was actually a solved case. They had them on video, and when the detective got there, he viewed the video and knew who the suspect was. They went to where they lived in East Black and arrested him. So that's actually a solved case, and they did recover some of the change. At 519 North Summit, we had a theft, a wallet stolen from a vehicle in the parking lot. This was kind of a unique car burglary in that there was a gentleman sleeping in the vehicle at the time. We very rarely have an occupied vehicle get burglarized. This was also on video, and it was actually at Circle K here, and you can see very clearly on the video, he walks up to the car, opens the door, reaches in and grabs the wallet and goes to the gas pumps and leaves. The victim's girlfriend, who was in the store at the time, knew the suspect, named the suspect, and the detectives had actually forwarded charges against the suspect in that case. So there's charges forwarded to the state attorney's office. We consider that a solved case. And then the last one we had was actually a DUI. It was actually on Oakwood Drive. Deputy did a traffic stop and found the gentleman to be under the influence. He refused field sobriety and refused to do a breathalyzer. He was arrested for DUI.
And then I guess it looks like he had minor children and
Yes, he actually had 2 minor children in the vehicle when he was operating it, and he got charged with neglect because he had 2 children in the vehicle. Looking at the crime trends from the numbers last year during the month and this year during the month, the crime rate's actually down 25%. As Captain Mussery said last month, because the numbers are so low, it only takes 1 or 2 cases to make that drastic change. But it actually is down from last year. And obviously, red, white, boom went very well. I'm not aware of any issues that came out of that. And the deputies seemed very happy that they were down here participating.
thank you for being here. And then we had at least 6.
Yes, ma'am.
I was told there was without incident. So thank you very much.
No problem. And the last one I want to kind of update you on is the Bay Lane shooting. That seems like it's going very slowly from the perspective outside the investigation. But we have identified suspects in that. And because of some of the things we have to do in the investigation, we're waiting on some of those results to come back before we can actually do the charges. That sometimes, some of the things we do sometimes takes months to get back. So that's why it seems like it's going slow.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any questions on any of those or anything I can answer for you?
Commissioners, do we have anything? Commissioner DeVito, do you have a question?
Well, I have a couple of comments. I know this is the June report.
Yes.
There'll be some things missing from the July report because they don't get reported. I'm not surprised to see that there was a DUI in my neighborhood and on South Main Street. That's North Main Street. And then south toward Scott King's neighborhood. There's a lot of discarded alcohol containers along the roadways. And I guess I should try to make a call to Captain Messery and let them know some of the streets that I see them on. Would that be helpful?
Absolutely. You can also pass that along to me and I will get that information out.
Okay,
Yeah, we definitely want to know things like that. I mean, if we don't see it, we don't know about it.
right. And when you walk or, you know, when you're not in a vehicle, it's more apparent.
Yes.
And I would say, do you want me to just tell you right now?
Sure.
Sure, I would say South Main Street between Central and all the way to the end. And then Lemon Avenue, which run, and Orange Avenue, which run east and west. And of course, they go out to the Valero, the convenience store.
Yes, ma'am.
As well, I did not report this, but at our Dexter Beach on Grand Rondo on July 4th, there were, I have pictures, there were huge fireworks going off, I think there. I didn't go look, and usually when you call dispatch, they want to know, did I see it? Well, there were huge booming fireworks and I decided not to go out, but the next, sure,
I
Yes.
did call
you did.
and, because there was a neighbor across the street that was very upset with what was going on.
Right,
It was after dark and they did not have a permit.
right.
So they did come down and they did
They
put
did.
it on, yes.
Okay, well, I don't know why there wasn't an arrest, or maybe some people came later, but,
There was a good sized crowd down there.
oh, I know there was, because I'm about to say, there was huge amounts of alcohol containers left there. And I let Mr. Leary know there was broken beer bottle in the parking lot. There was a lot of drinking going on, that's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So, and a neighbor of mine, we live just a few blocks away, he said actually that that particular location gets trashed, according to him, every year. But it was a lot, yeah,
Yeah.
and,
I drove down there and it was
right, yeah,
packed, lots of people there.
yeah, and it was too loud, too dangerous, and whatever, so, just, you know, for the, and I don't think the neighbors called you, right, but, okay.
And I think so we can kind of wrap this a little bit that we are working on that. I know Mr. Pickens, you're working, I think, with Mr. Leary as far as with our ordinances so that we can have some teeth in those so that it will help out the sheriff's department and going out there and people taking them actually seriously when they show up.
And I'm also, we're gonna try to set up a meeting with Colonel Wells and Captain Husband and Lieutenant and whoever else, even the sheriff. They, under contract as our law enforcement agency, can enforce all our ordinances and the county ordinances. So litter and drinking in the park, all that can all be enforced. In my discussions with the public works director about, you know, he says it happens every year and they make a mess every year and they clean it up every year. So and maybe if we don't want that to happen next year, then we're gonna have to have additional law enforcement on site and stop it before it gets started.
Absolutely, that's why I'm bringing it up, because I don't think that, I think all the dots have not yet been connected, and between,
Well, according to the public works director, it
Been
never
going on
was
for
about
years.
the police department here never stopped it. So it's not like it's, you know, and he said it happens every year. So,
Well, please forgive me, but I don't know a lot of the history that went on, you know, beyond when we stepped in.
sure,
So I had no idea you had ongoing problems every year.
well, that's what I'm saying, like, I just happen, you know, a neighbor calls Judy, and I see it, and I talk to my neighbor, and that's what I mean by the dots being connected, is that it's becoming apparent that it happens every year, and our parks department people are very nice, they just go clean it up, and they do a great job, but that's what I mean by connect the
yes,
dots.
we're also gonna get new signage.
Yes,
That's gonna be much bigger and bolder. And, you know, it's gonna prioritize the top 4 things, no drinking, no littering, that type of thing. And so they'll be clear. So if they say, oh, in the course, ignorance of law is no excuse, but that is gonna be something that we're gonna focus on trying to get our parks cleaned up and utilized by people that want to take care of it.
right, well, that's great, no, I just mean, I think that we're exchanging the information that we need to get all this done. So
As soon as we got copies of all your ordinances and that we were clear to enforce them, they were all sent out to the sheriffs and sergeants, so they're all aware of it.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
sounds good to me.
Fireworks, and that's the second week in a row that, I mean, that I've gotten phone calls, Commissioner West got the phone call. And both times, thank you very much. I mean, dispatch got right on it and they did respond and got it taken care of to the neighbor's satisfaction.
Outstanding.
No fireworks in the park whatsoever, though, regardless, there should be no fireworks in the park. So that's something that we're gonna have to really put some teeth in that, you know, and they're gonna do it, people are gonna do it. You know,
And we are amending our ordinance, or our attorney's working on it, and we're gonna amend our ordinance to make the fine substantial. Right now, they're like $35, so.
Right, it's gonna be a little more than a pack.
$500 fines.
and those weren't just firecrackers. I mean, because I went down there and cleaned it, a lot of it up and
No, I took
they took,
extensive
I mean,
pictures.
that
They
was
were-
that's a big one. And they were loaded up down there.
When I went down, they were
Outside.
way up in the air and Big ones.
So Crescent City had fireworks after all, and it
Right.
was a July. Yeah.
Right, but,
Okay.
But there's no lights down there. People are moving like this and kids are running around and, oh, gosh,
Well, they're not supposed to be in there after
That's
dusk
right.
anyway, so,
that's why it's not lit.
so that's an issue. Commissioner DeVito, did you have some other, you said you
No,
have
I
a
was
few
gonna
things?
say, it needs to be for all the parks, because then the next night, I told the mayor, there were smaller fireworks, but for 20 minutes on the tennis court across the street. And they weren't rockets, but it was completely inappropriate. I called, I didn't see anybody come, but it was for about 20 minutes. So the signs need to be, I think, for all the parks, for sure. It was
Oh,
a
yeah,
different
absolutely.
But you
population.
know,
Fortunately, there was no drinking.
but you know, a more safer and a more respectable way, I think it's good for us commissioners to report stuff, but I don't think we need to do it in an open meeting, because people out there watching and they see, so you might be telling somebody, come on, I told on you, and it'll cause a problem. So I think what we should try to do is gather the information, come and turn it in to the administrator or somebody, and let him call it to the sheriff office, and that'll keep us out of the picture. We see it,
That's true.
we report it,
Mhm.
but we have to be careful, because see them 2 eyes there,
Yeah,
and people sitting in their homes.
this is true.
See
This is
that.
true, Commissioner.
Right.
The kind of like, Captain Usher told me before, the young people were in here and they were naming names. So he said, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
He called me personally. So we have to be very careful that we be on the safe side too, and we be safe. Nobody don't be throw them in our yard, because we turn them in.
Right.
Well, I was working on it.
Before I
Okay.
leave tonight, I'll leave y'all a stack of my business cards to have my number on.
Thank you,
Okay,
thank you
so
very much. You have any other questions? Commissioner West? Commissioner
Thank
Bay?
you for a good job.
Commissioner Burton?
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
At this time, Mr. Leary, you're
First,
up.
Before I get into the specific items, just want to give some questions came up about our transfers, and want to get a finance director just to give y'all a brief update on where we are with the budget. Some transfers we'll have to make, temporary transfers
Ms. Peacock?
due to expenses. So Debbie, you want to tell them?
Yes, right now, our general fund is sort of low, and it is due to, we had a lot of extra expense this year with the Clarion and with paying out the sheriff's department quarterly. We prepaying them quarterly, and so it's brought us down. And then with the FDOT SCOP grant out here, so we may have to wind up borrowing some money from the general fund reserves, just temporary, so that we can make these payments, because we will be reimbursed from
Okay.
the grant. Right now, we're FDOT, we paid out $131,940. We'll get $26,900 back this month, and then we'll file for the other part next month. And usually if I file right away, we get it within a couple of weeks. But because of all the expenditures, I just want to make y'all aware and get permission that if I need to borrow from the reserves, we can. And then we'll pay it right back.
Okay, commissioners, do we have any questions of Ms. Peacock?
Okay, good. And then secondly, on your budget workshop, or kind of our budget format that we proposed, we definitely, we need to just vote to approve the workshop on the 20th at 10 a.m., which will be our first budget workshop. The second budget workshop will be on August the 10th before our regular commission meeting. And we'll set our September budget hearings for the proposed tax the final tax millage and our adoption, we'll set that probably on, well, we will set it on at the special meeting on July 20th that we'll have, starting at 2:00, that we'll be getting a brief presentation from Florida Gas Utilities. And then we'll do our interviews that y'all select. We'll start our interviews for our city manager candidate.
Can I get
Oh,
this?
yes, go ahead.
We're going right through this budget, and I think I understand the general fund report, but the gas fund report and the water fund report, it seems a little hokey to me. I mean, I see gas at the beginning of 12,500, let's say, we just round up and everything. We received and spent basically what we received. And we have a surplus of, it says we have a surplus of $42,000 or $43,000. We're paying a gas bill. What exactly is that gas bill?
That's our natural gas that we buy in order
Okay, so
to
that's
sell.
gas that we buy. Okay. And then as I go down through, we get the 43,000, it says total account balance. We have a gas sinking fund bond. What is a gas sinking fund bond?
That's a loan that we have
Okay,
that, for the old gas line that we have to pay every year. And so I have to move money into that account until it's time to pay it, to make sure we have that money there
and you move that money from
for the cash account.
the cash account, from the
Yes.
general fund.
No, well, not the general fund, it's from the gas fund up there at the top.
So out of that 43,
Yes,
okay,
I'm gonna, right now, I'm going to move money from gas, water, and sewer, because the gas, water, and sewer owe admin fees. So I'll be moving money out of there for the general fund admin fees also.
yeah, because, okay, so basically you're paying $3,000 on a loan, correct? That we borrowed for the gas. This is what I mean, this gas sinking fund bond, we
Okay,
have $3,000, and then we say bond payment due 9/1.
yes,
So the bond payment is what?
$57,000.
Okay, that's the
Or
bond payment.
50-something thousand, 54,000, I have to go look.
All right, is that what, yeah, but we received 57,000.
Yes, but we have to keep a minimum in there too.
A minimum in our
Yes.
reserves.
Didn't we just make a transfer to have that minimum?
This is, to me, just, when I look at this, it doesn't come together very well for me, I guess, because I don't know all the ins and outs, because I guess, maybe when I sit through meetings, I don't see where the 54,000 is coming from. We spent nothing, we received 57,000, we got a bill to pay of 3,000.
No, their bill is gonna be 54,000, I think, or 50, I'd have to go look and see exactly what it
Okay,
is.
and we pay that from the balance up here, correct? The balance, the 43,000.
No,
See, that's what I mean. I'm not sure how the dots are.
I
Come
take
together.
money from the gas, cash account, that's where all the money goes in every month from everybody's bills.
Okay,
And as they have a surplus, I move it down to the sinking fund to hold it until the time of the payment. At
Okay.
the time that the payment's due, I have to move it back up to the cash account because I have to write a check to pay for it.
okay.
So we had to keep a minimum balance of $3,000 in there.
Okay.
And so that's why it's at 60,000 right now. I have moved 57,000 to cover the payment.
Okay. Now, what's the gas rest and relaxation fund here, the R&R fund?
That's the rolling and replacement fund, and that's the one that I borrowed money for the tree and the boring from that I brought it down too low.
Okay,
And it has to be $225,000, I think is what the auditor says we have to keep in there.
okay.
And so right now, it's only has 144,000. So that's why we was asking for the commission to let us take that much money from the general fund reserves to cover that road bore in the tree that we had to do that job.
And that's already been approved by the
Yeah.
commission.
Okay, well, I just,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that
I
was
got
that,
you.
wasn't
I
it
just
that,
wanna
was that the
understand
85? Was it, how much
It
was
was-
that?
I think it was
88, 85?
something like
Yeah,
that.
okay.
And
And that puts you at your threshold where we have a
That's-
Yeah, that'll
reserve.
bring us.
Okay,
And then the last one, the gas reserves, we have to keep a minimum balance in there in case we can't make the bond payment.
yeah,
We have to keep the minimum balance for the bond payment in there at all times.
and the minimum payment is at 50.
That's at 57,000.
Okay. So is that kind of the same thing that we're doing here with the water?
Yes, ma'am.
And the water,
I got lots of arrows going everywhere on this paper, but
the water was for the water treatment plant improvements, correct? And then the repairs we had to make to the water tank.
Yes, the sinking fund for this is water and sewer sinking fund. It's actually just the water department is the bond that we have for when we built the water plant. And so it's twice a year. I have to make that payment. So I move money during the year into that account to hold it, to make sure we have enough when those payments come due. We've made one payment this year in March, and we'll have to make another payment in September.
and that payment is 7,500 or 7,400?
It's 50 some thousand. I have to keep a minimum of 7,000 in there.
You didn't, okay, so this is the minimum. And, okay, all right, and
I think this would probably be good at our workshop too.
yeah, I just think that,
Kind of go through and make sure that we all know exactly where we are, where our liabilities are.
I know you
and
deal with
what's
it every day,
expected.
so it's,
It's
it's
fine.
kind of like my
Anytime y'all wanna
checkbook,
send
I
out
just got you that
just
when
let
it's
me
coming and
know.
going, and I know what's happening.
Yeah.
But I look at this and
Okay.
this report, okay.
Commissioner
I don't know.
DeVito,
spend too long.
I have long shared Commissioner Burton's,
concern?
not exactly concerned, but it's very hard to follow. And
Yeah,
as-
it's extremely
as
difficult.
Commissioner Burton was asking her questions and Ms. Peacock was explaining it, it occurs to me that perhaps this is something that Clarion could help us with. I think Commissioner Burton said a flow chart, or maybe she's drawing her own. It would really be nice to have a flow chart that shows the relationship,
Exactly.
so that we would really better understand it, because she's absolutely right. From month to month, even Ms. Peacock looks at it every day, but you kind of lose the flow of it. And it might be very helpful. And this report is really supposed to be for the public as well, according to the charter. So I think that flow chart would be a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, everything you said, Ms. Peacock, not just calling you Ms. Peacock, but everything you said, it actually really makes sense while, as you're explaining it, but when you look at the paper,
Yeah.
everything that you said is not on this paper. So there's just a lot of blank spots, I guess, is.
And that's something we're running into, and we discussed this too with the minutes, is that everything that we do that really is public record, we have to remember that, somebody in the future might need to be looking at that, and so that they have they can understand it, so they can understand it. I found that I'm looking through a lot of old paperwork, and it's very foreign to me, because it's just, whoever did it understood it, but I sure don't, so.
And the good thing is that now they can just go back and get a thumb drive and download our meeting.
They can.
And then look at the meeting
Now they
and
can.
hear a great explanation.
That's very true.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions from Ms. Peacock?
No, but I have a question for Mr. Leary.
Okay, can he, about the
Did
budget?
everybody
Yes.
get the budget?
Is it budget related?
Well, it's about the fund report. It's a quick question.
Okay,
So with respect to the gas loan, when the auditors were here presenting the audit, I think we had a discussion of whether it would be possible to refinance the gas loan. And I think there were pros and cons to that, and I don't know whether that, I wondered if it ever came in for a definite answer.
Well, thank you. The
Because there were some cons.
the answer is yes and maybe.
Okay,
We could refinance the debt, and through a guaranteed loan through USDA. They won't do a direct loan from the department, but we could do a guaranteed loan where the USDA would guarantee either 80 or 90% of the loan for a private entity to do that. With the interest rates the way they are now, we might save 1%, right, Debbie, or maybe 3/4%. But then you have to pay all the cost of going through that process, which is pretty substantial. So, still looking at that, but,
okay,
also, looking at where we're going with the gas company, and the auditors brought that out and said, we need to do an evaluation completely, and look at what our options are. Quite frankly, I don't think long-term, it's something that we can sustain, certainly with, our customer base not growing, and, the infrastructure costs that we still have to maintain. So, all those things I was hoping to maybe make a presentation to the board at the August meeting. But I'm not there yet. I'm hoping to, and if not, with the new city manager coming in, that'll be a priority of something for me to work with him on in the transition as we move forward. Or her, correct, or it. So,
okay, well, that sounds good. Thank you. I just didn't, I know these
that's a
things
long
take.
answer to your question,
It's
but
okay. These things take time. I just didn't want to forget. I remember that we did talk about that.
yeah, and I think that from the audit standpoint and the auditors and again, what, we're working on, we've got to kind of look at a short and long-term solution.
But something maybe that when Dave is here, that we can get some, when he's
Oh,
doing his
yes,
presentation
yes,
at the workshop.
And what we're gonna do differently than what's been done by previous managers, administrators, is that I'm a strong advocate of the department heads and the finance director being directly involved in communicating directly to the commission, either as a whole, the commission as a whole, or individually as y'all have questions. That's not been the case in the past, and really it certainly was not the way most local governments do it. So at the workshop on the 20th, each department head will be making a presentation, brief, but a presentation where you can ask questions also on their current budget, what they foresee for next year's budget, and just kind of an overall view of, the pros and cons of what they see. We're in good shape, I think, with our water and sewer. We do need to look at some pretty major projects on expansion and restoration or revitalization of our piping and our infrastructure system. But we're hoping to do that, with Better Place Plan funds, and hopefully the next community development block grant phase that will apply for funding through the CDBG program for that infrastructure improvement. And our engineer actually helps us with that process. They actually do the application and help us through that whole process, which is very, very, they did it with the paving project we have out here. Did that answer your question?
There should be. Okay,
And that's, thank you.
okay. There's no more questions about the budget. Do you want to,
Yes, ma'am.
about our dates? Do we need to vote on our dates?
Yes, you do. I'm sorry. Yes,
That's
if
okay.
we could vote on those dates,
Okay.
that'd be great.
Do I have, so
Yes.
When August the 10th and 20th.
July 20th and
July
August 10th.
and
Yes, sir.
August 10th.
budget workshop
Right, and Commissioner.
and
Banks-
special meeting.
Right, Commissioner Banks, did you want to make the motion or do you want me to?
You go ahead.
Okay, so I move that we take the city manager's recommendation that we set a budget workshop at 10 a.m. on July 20th, and then at 2 p.m. have a special, that's the special meeting for consideration of city manager candidates, and that we also then set a subsequent budget workshop for the morning of August 10th. Which will be the morning of August 10th, right? And that the September dates for budget hearings will be to be determined on July 20th.
Correct.
What's the time on the 10th?
The 10th would be 10 a.m., correct? No?
Or we could do it before the meeting, whichever you
Yeah.
prefer, morning or afternoon.
I think that might
At
need
least
to be
one
an
meeting has to be
evening. Yeah, I think.
Okay, so-
On August the 10th, in the PM,
Correct. We do it at
by what time?
probably 5 p.m.
Because that just gives us an hour.
Well, we can
Mhm.
always extend our other
Yeah, we-
meeting if we need
Yeah,
to.
we can extend.
Okay, so I'll just wrap up the motion, the August 10th workshop, budget workshop to be at 5 p.m.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I move.
Okay, Commissioner Banks, do you want to repeat that motion?
No, I sure don't.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving to the items under my agenda, 9A. We have submitted, and there's a copy of the request for qualifications that have been, sent out and publicized. We've had several firms make specific inquiries and talk to either myself or the city clerk. And the date for submission of RFQs from architectural firms is July 23rd, and I expect we'll get several. So any questions on that?
Questions, Commissioner?
Okay.
I think there, I do have a question. There was, this has been brought up about us doing something here with this building, but it's my understanding that the commission, and Ms. Peacock, you can probably help us with this a little bit. Weren't there funds set aside several years ago for the renovation of or it was at least discussed, renovation of this building because of the needs that we have here right now?
Yeah, yes, I don't remember exactly when it was, but I think we even had an architect come and give us some information, but I didn't get it, so.
So this is just not a new idea. I just want to make sure that we have that we clarify that this was
Yes,
brought up
it's
to the
not a new
commission
idea.
before as far as renovating the building. Okay, okay,
There is funds, they're budgeted for this year, I think 60,000 for renovation, and we're going to start with the county area. And then proceed from there.
okay.
So one good thing is the architect that did the original transformation from the bank to City Hall, the city attorney brought those in because Bob Taylor, who's the architect in Palaca that did that, he's retiring. So we have all the plans from when the transition
Right.
occurred from the bank to City Hall, which is tremendously helpful. And that'll hopefully get us started. But once we have that, we'll move forward. Whether or not we'll be able to start any construction before the end of the fiscal year, it's kind of an open-ended right now, but maybe. So, you have in your packet also a memo from Corbett, our Inspire Technologies lead on our update for our IT system. We also included, we'll need 4, which have been ordered, and I think, did we get them?
Yes, sir.
We've got our 4 new PCs or computers, and then the backup systems for them, the electrical backup systems. So they're all in place. They'll be putting those in hopefully the first of next week. And we'll be up to speed, and that in addition to our software improvements and changes, we'll see a significant improvement in our abilities to run our software systems and get into a much more favorable position with our staff for using them. Those monies were not budgeted. I think it's about $7,000 this year, so we will be probably having to again borrow from the reserve fund to pay for that, and then but that will catch it. We won't need to purchase anything in the new fiscal year. So, and I'm pretty pleased the way things are going. They've also are working with Edmunds, the software firm that we have for our accounting and billing, and Edmunds will finish up and start training. I think they were supposed to start training this week, our staff, correct, Debbie?
Yes, or next week. I
Next
think it is.
week,
They're
next
gonna
week.
start on
Right.
the
Next week. So
card readers and
yeah,
all.
on our card readers, and so we're getting back on track, and our staff is very happy about that, as am I, as you should be. The last, well, not the last item, but the 9AC, we are required by the Florida Gas Utilities to have both a director and an alternate for their board. David Frank, our gas authority director, has pretty much always served as the director. The alternate never was really named. It was kind of by de facto the city manager. My recommendation is that, and we have to fill this out, and it has to be, a motion has to be made and approved to designate the director and the alternate. My recommendation is that the director, again, just remain Dave Frank, and that alternate be the mayor. And that can be the mayor for as long as we're participating in it. The reason I didn't say city manager is because the city manager can be the alternate for the mayor. But I just think it's good to have a representative from the commission, and in addition to the staff, the director of the gas authority. So if you agree with that, just need to make a motion, and then we'll fill this in and get it signed and sent to the Florida Gas Utilities. So our board members will be, an alternate will be official.
You need a motion.
We need a motion. We're gonna need a motion.
I submitted that we approve for director of the SGU to be David Frank, and alternate will be our mayor.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
That's it, and just, we're good on the budget schedule, so that concludes my agenda items.
Okay, Mr. Pickens.
Yeah, so I do have two brief updates. The first one being 107 North Main. I believe that address is the old Masonic Lodge. So I guess it would be back there. I actually stopped by Mr. Will Hyde's office today at Black Abstract. He was working on these, so hopefully next week we'll have a deed. And Mr. Duden, I believe Mr. Leary has volunteered to go out and have him execute that deed as soon as we do get it. I also, at the last meeting, Commissioner Banks brought up the property that the city owns on, it's on Rocket Lane, 713 Rocket Lane,
Yes,
I
sir.
believe.
Yeah, 713.
We do have the title search is completed for that, and the deeds, to deed half of the city's property to each
150.
side, to at least get it back on the tax deed. It looks like the county, I do have the whole title history. It looks like it was bought on a tax deed, and then the county gave it to the city back in 2019. So it's been off the tax rolls for 2 years.
Right.
So I do have two deeds that are prepared, if the commission votes to do so, to divide that property in half and give it to each owner inside, each side.
Just need a motion to do that, Mayor.
I thought we already voted to do it. Yeah.
I think we voted to move forward with the process to make sure that we had,
Right.
that all the title was
You
clear
wanted to
and
make
that
sure
we
we had clear
had ownership.
Clear
and everything.
title.
So we can formally do that. And
Okay, the mayor, call for it out. Make a
Okay,
motion
do we have so what we're doing is a motion to transfer that property
to- Between the two cities.
These,
to execute the deeds, okay? Motion,
Did anybody talk to these two?
Yeah.
Do they understand that their taxes may go up?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
So they
yeah,
understand all
yeah,
that. I just want to make sure.
They already understand all
I
that.
don't want any surprise.
No, it won't be,
And I do believe it's a very small, I think. the
it's
whole-
small.
I don't think it's
whole lot
small,
Was
but
a third of an acre, so I think that we should get
I think,
half of a third.
I
I
just
think
want to make
it's
sure they
$5
don't have any
more.
surprises.
on each one of them taxes.
Yeah,
But that's
you know.
the point. I mean,
Yeah.
they may not be interested.
People get mad over
Right,
little
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Little things.
okay, and like give it right back to us,
I do move that we
okay?
go forward with it.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Okay, the ayes have it.
So what do they need to do? Come up here?
No, they won't have to do anything, the city will sign, on the county deed, well, it actually was my dad, because he was the chairman of the board, so I believe the mayor can just sign the deeds on behalf of the city. They'll be recorded, they'll have to pay a nominal fee, a minimal doc stamp, because I believe the transfer is just for $10. It was consideration for the deed, so they would just have to take it and record it.
Okay. So they can come up to City Hall and get the necessary paperwork that they need to get. Okay, all right.
But we'll contact them at that time.
Okay.
Okay.
Make sure they're on board.
Okay, Commissioner DeVito.
Yes, I have a couple things to clarify about the 107 North Main Street property
Okay,
that, Attorney Pickens, you're anticipating that that deed will be, that will become the property of the city shortly, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what I want to clarify is, well, first of all, for the present time, there was an orange condemned placard on that building, and it seems to be quite gone.
along with the glass and the wood and everything else that it was
Yeah.
probably attached
I'm
to.
sorry,
The doors,
it's gone.
It's
windows.
gone, yeah, and,
They keep tearing it off. We put it up there twice, or the county's put it up there twice.
well, I have, and then, I got a copy of the report from the county about, I forget what the name of it is, but there's a compliance report that says.
Blue Moon Lodge.
Yes, the Blue Moon Lodge at 107. So I got a copy of the report, and also I asked for clarification, because I think at the last meeting or one before it, the mayor said she thought that once there's an orange placard on a building, that it's, you can be arrested if you go there. And that was as part of the discussion about the Historical Society recommending that it, that we make an attempt to stabilize it. So Mr. Christopher Coppola with the county, he said, the orange placard on a building means that only the owner is allowed to go in to make repairs. The owner of the contractor. It's not absolutely prohibited to go in. But he also said that when the placard is up, the police then can remove them. So I called the police last week because there were people there. But there was no placard. The placard once again is gone.
Yeah, Pam, our code enforcement officer says that as quick as almost they put them up, they tear them down.
They tear it down. They tear it down. People staying in there at night.
Right, so, and my next question is, just so we all know, the placards are down.
And we will try to get them back up.
Well, I don't know if there's a way to, this reminds me of a discussion we had on Rocket Lane about fencing to keep people out of certain places, and it was over and over and over again. But anyway, so just to get some clarification, one of the members of the Historical Society, and we all, I think, have a letter from them. It was their understanding after talking with Phil that there is a process for the condemnation, or there's a process to tear things down, or once we have the deed, are you just planning to tear it down?
Well, that was my plan because it's been declared public health hazard. And that, the report that I got from Pam, our code enforcement officer, and the county building department is that the building had been condemned.
Right, but
So yes and yes on both your, now we'll have to come to the board for approval for the funding to do that. And that, you know, we're in the process of getting bids from licensed and contractors that, demolition contractors that have certification for asbestos. Where the gentleman looked at it, what, 2 weeks ago, Karen? And so expecting that in any time. Now, we obviously would like to have 3 bids, but they're not, most of these demolition contractors don't have that special license. The one that we used, or the city's used before, does have that.
Okay, well, somehow, whoever it was that talked to you, got the impression that this whole process would have to go somehow to the planning and zoning.
Oh,
board.
yes, ma'am, I can clarify that.
Okay,
So, Mr. Dan Miller called me and said that, you know, that the commission would be receiving a letter and, you know, told me what it was gonna be about and
sure.
so forth. And I said, I understand, any request, based that would come to the commission has to first go to the planning commission as the designated historical board for the city. And then they make a recommendation to the city commission.
Okay, so I don't think he totally understood that, so that's why I'm asking you now.
You
Okay,
weren't listening very well, yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people maybe realize that the planning, the historical board ought, that they sit as the historical. board.
well, I just think there was like a little glitch there. He wasn't quite understanding. It's not the demolition that goes to the planning and zoning.
Right.
It is the request to preserve the building.
Correct.
That is what that is. Okay, well, that is very helpful. And yes, I got a copy of my email, so everybody should have gotten a copy of a letter. It was emailed by Herb Ray.
I've got a copy of it.
Okay, and
And we will be,
Anyway.
for the next planning commission meeting, we'll put that on the agenda,
okay,
put the letter on the agenda.
all right. And then I had, before we left the city manager discussion, and this is really a question for both Mr. Pickens and for the city manager. If we do not have money in the budget for a $7,000 expenditure, and it has to come from reserves, does that have to be approved by the commission as a change to the budget?
We did it through, we do those through resolution, correct, Eddie? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we approved that one already.
For the $7,000 for the.
Yes. For the
we
computers.
Approved that as part of the contract for under the IT under Inspire, correct?
Okay, so you're saying we've done that
Mm-hmm.
already? Okay,
We approved to
Yeah.
pay them the money, so we got
Yeah.
to take it from somewhere.
okay, that's part of the IT.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I learned tonight.
Okay. Is there anything else? Commissioner West, do you have anything else? Commissioner Banks,
Good.
Commissioner Burton?
Yeah, I have something it's been bothering me for a long time.
Okay.
The corner lot over here has been for sale. Has it really been for sale?
Has it been marketed? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Is anybody marketing it? Mr. Leary, you looked into that, didn't you?
But no, there's no
There's no-
contract with any.
Yeah. We have no contract with anybody.
See, the other thing, I got a list here also. Now I've taken one off, so I did have 17 properties, now 16 properties. That basically are owned by Crescent City. They're empty. And they're just sitting there empty. So we're not getting any taxes or anything like that on there. So we got this big lot over here sitting there empty. We got 16 more lots that really ought to be looked at as far as being sold, that no one's basically selling, or, you know, they're not out there selling. And I'd like to make a motion to hire a commercial, you know, kind of a nationwide realtor company of sorts to start getting this on the market and getting some of this stuff sold.
I think in order to do that, but we have to do an RFP on it.
No, what my recommendation would be is that for the 2 acres for the commercial property that we, find a national real estate company to market that and enter into a contract with them, which we would be, obviously would be bring back to the commission for approval. And then for the other properties, which I've looked at the list, that we can split it up between the two local real estate firms here. I mean, we own a lot in Willaca that's, are worth $20,000 and
It's still money in
Yeah.
our pocket.
Yeah.
and then there are vacant
Can't put it on the
properties
tax.
within the city that we won't be using for any infrastructure or any government purpose that are, different values, different sizes that we could then, but at least we get them back on the tax roll. So that would be my recommendation.
But I think you got that big parcel right over there, right?
Mhm.
I think the reason they really didn't put it out there for sale, because we're trying to prevent the wrong setup from getting over there.
Mr. Banks, help me out here. Do you remember when Patrick was here, we were talking about Red Roof Inn was interested in putting a hotel there,
Right.
one level hotel, but I don't remember what happened in that after.
Well, they came back and told us that that wouldn't be successful.
We did a hotel study on that
Right.
also. You did a feasibility study.
$10,000 for a feasibility
Okay.
analysis.
Thank you. We did a feasibility study on that.
Right.
In 2019. So, and it was determined at that time that a name brand probably would not be,
Very
yes,
successful.
Commissioner DeVito.
So my comment on that is this, and this goes back to the importance of using that money that we put in the budget for revising the land development code, and also using the money that we put in the budget for an economic development manager. It has been discussed in the past, and I think it is a good point that that is a signature corner. It's part of it's a core part of the anchor part of the CRA district. So the whole reason the city, I think, took and kept ownership of that in the first place was to make sure that something that went in there was appropriate for the goals of the CRA. And I mean, I know it's a vacant lot, but also that it was an appropriate anchor project that would benefit the city.
Well, see, and I understand that, but, and I agree that it has to be, like that, but here's the thing, if nobody's looking at it, there's plenty of anchor type things out there. It doesn't have to be a hotel. I mean, there's plenty of things out there, in different businesses that maybe if they saw the corner and maybe if they saw Crescent City, they might want to move in here. Okay, now, do we have the final say as to? who
Yes, well,
buys
you
it?
can, in a real estate contract, you can put conditions
You see
in
what-
there
yeah.
that condition that the property has to be utilized or constructed, this type of development. I mean, but I agree.
You have to get it out there. for
Yeah,
people to look at.
What I was trying to get at is that it matters.
Yeah,
It's great to do it, but
agreed.
it matters how you do it. And that you do want to have that control, because the idea was to get it into use, that it should be something positive. It's part of the historic district. It's a huge corner. So yes, I think the idea would be to have conditions on the marketing so that it would be a positive, and maybe, it wouldn't be like, wind up looking like the surf shop with the glass
Well,
windows on the
Commissioner,
beach.
I agree with totally what you're saying. All that can be done through the real estate contract and
Yes.
then through an open buyer. But that property is the most valuable property in the city, and it's been sitting there and nobody's trying to market it. And, we've been trying to work with the Chamber of Commerce, which is almost
Yeah,
laughable.
they've tried. I mean.
They're
they've shown
not,
it if
they're not
somebody's
focusing
interested.
on this. So I think it's important that we put, $1 million, maybe $2 million property back on the tax rolls. And that, when Commissioner Burton came in and talked to me about it, I said, well, the first thing we need to do is retain the services of a nationally prominent real estate firm you know, to market it nationwide, to sell. And
Well, I think we're saying roughly the same thing,
mhm.
but the idea is to make sure that it goes in the right direction and.
But you ultimately have control. of
We
that.
have control, so long as we have
That's my
control
point,
over it.
yes.
So I think that's something that the
That's
CRA,
what I think we're saying the same
that
thing.
we need to put that on our CRA.
Yes.
Maybe at the next meeting, we have a CRA board meeting, so that, because it's a CRA property, it's in our CRA zone. So
Right.
that we have to make sure that we've set some conditions on it that we're looking for. Is that, how does everyone feel about that?
I think that's good.
I
If
think
you're
that's,
going
I think
to-
that's the way to go.
So if you set some sort of parameters that you're looking for the type of clientele you're looking for to buy that, is that something that's,
Yeah, I move that we schedule a CRA meeting and that we put on the agenda the marketing of the Market Square property with, you know, the appropriate conditions for the benefit of the city.
do you have any nationwide firms that you've been in contact with that maybe?
I haven't contacted, but I've worked with several over my career.
Okay, so that maybe at the next meeting at the same time, we can get an idea of what their contract, what their requirements are gonna be as well.
Right.
So we need to
And
take
then-
that all into consideration before we,
And then on the other properties, can we? can
we
I
have
work with
3
this?
agencies. We have 3 local,
We have 3.
yeah, we do. We have Caldwell Banker.
They're not
Yes.
over there in Black.
Yeah, but they do have. an
No, they're
office
here.
They have an office here right next to,
Yeah,
Just
that's
pick
Chuck,
one.
Chuck Bailey and is that Missy?
Well, you know,
Richard
we have
Radke.
3,
Richard
and
Radke,
those are
right.
the 3 companies we
Yeah.
can call.
Yeah.
We just need to call the 3 companies and see if they're even interested. They may not be, so that might cause another kind of.
it might, yeah. It might, they might not be interested.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, so we have a motion. Yes, Ms. Sykes?
I'm on the CRA advisory board, and I was present in that
You
meeting.
resigned. She resigned.
Yes, you
I
did.
designed to be on another board, but you didn't approve that, so I'll stay.
I don't approve that. That's the commission's approval.
Yeah,
She resigned.
this is,
Ms. Sykes, yes, can
She
you,
has a comment.
Yes, I'd like to finish. I was on the CRA board, and I was present when the consultant that we paid $10,000 to presented her results of the feasibility analysis. And since there were no appreciative comps in the area, she used Palatka and the land for her comps, but said, based on those comps, it's feasible to have a hotel on that corner. What we're lacking is marketing. That's what she said, that was the decision.
yeah, I was in the meeting as well, and I have a copy of that report, and a small boutique hotel is what was, I think, recommended, that the big names were not,
I didn't say big names.
well, typically, that's what you're gonna be talking to, a Hilton, a Days Inn, a Holiday Inn at that time, that was not something that
she
she thought.
definitely said a 40.
Yeah, 40
Yeah,
below,
yeah.
40 below.
Yes, but it
I
was,
was at that
it was, she
meeting as well.
did say it was feasible, but what we're lacking is the marketing. And it sounds like from what Ms. Rita was saying, and Mr. Leary, that if we're gonna sell that particular corner, maybe we should have some money in the budget for marketing.
Okay, thank you very much, we appreciate it.
so
Okay, so do we have a motion?
I think
I made a motion.
Okay,
for
we
she
have
made,
marketing.
she kind of added a whole bunch of stuff to it. So
Okay, let's go over your
Yeah, so-
motion one
so
more
let's-
time, so we're very clear.
Go through it again.
Essentially, the motion was to follow up on what the mayor said, to schedule a CRA meeting and put on that agenda the topic of marketing the Miller Market Square property for the appropriate firm with appropriate conditions for, you know, the benefit of the city.
I have a motion.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay? Okay, motion carries. Now, we also have an issue with the additional properties, so we need to make a motion on that as well. So I'm gonna need a motion from somebody as far as talking to those local agencies about marketing those properties.
I make a motion that we, let the administrator, the acting administrator, look into it and come back to us, then we make the motion.
Okay.
Then if the real estate
Okay.
company want to take on that,
Yeah.
Okay,
and then we can make a motion at that time
And with those properties too, that's something that we need to think about in reviewing those, Mr. Leary, if you would just make sure that in looking at those properties, that those as future needs, and they're not gonna be anything that we're gonna
Already
need
did.
in the future, you did, okay? And so those are the ones that we want, okay?
And some of them need cleaning up too.
Second that motion.
Commissioner Burke, do you want to second that motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
Aye. Well, but I have a question. Could we all have a list of the addresses of those properties?
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
thanks.
Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, all opposed, nay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. So now at this time, we're gonna open up for public hearing. This is gonna be the second reading of the ordinance of the city case RZ 21-04 for Palmetto Avenue concerning application to allow for lot 2 to be rezoned residential from commercial. This time, I'm going to open it up for additional factual testimony or for or against. Do we have anybody here for or against this with additional factual testimony? Okay. Seeing nobody come to the podium, do we have any public input on this? Okay, seeing that there's no public input on this, I'm going to bring it back to the commission. Do we have discussion? No discussion? Okay, can we have a motion?
I so moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion of acceptance of the ordinance and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay. Motion carries. Okay, this is going to be for our second reading of an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Crescent City, Florida, relating to code enforcement by the city, providing for legislative findings, intent, providing for a short title, providing for code enforcement proceedings and procedures relating to the codes and ordinances of the city, providing for a special magistrate code enforcement process, providing for definitions, providing for jurisdiction and related matters pertaining to code enforcement, providing for the repeal ordinance 03-005, sections 2-62 through 2-72, providing for codification of as the new chapter 2, beginning with chapter 2, section 62, and through 2-74, providing for conflicts, providing for severability and an effective date. Everybody got that? Okay, do we have any additional factual testimony for or against this ordinance? Okay, seeing none come to the podium, do we have any public input? Okay, you come to the podium, introduce yourself, please, give your address and speak slowly and into the mic.
Sykes, 304 Chestnut Street. Can I come see all the copy of this ordinance?
Can you see a copy of it?
Yeah, what it, all like details, I mean,
Sure.
all the sections, okay.
You want a copy? Look at you. Ms. Hayes, can you get her a copy? Okay, do we have any other public hearing? Sorry, public comments? Okay, seeing none come to the podium, I'm going to bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, do we have any discussion?
I have some questions.
Okay, Commissioner DeVito,
Okay,
you have the floor.
sure. I was not at the May 27th meeting where it was on first reading. I'm not sure if this has been properly gone over yet. I noticed on the first page in the whereas clauses, in the fourth whereas clause, it makes a reference to the city of DeLand. So I assume that that was used as the model for this ordinance.
This was drafted before.
I know,
Okay.
I'm not.
I believe
Here,
that's
Oh,
it
yeah.
was
Jay
drafted
did
by
do
me.
it. I know,
But nevertheless.
I know he's
Yeah,
in
no, I
contact,
can make
yes.
the correction. Yes.
You're the only person that I have
Yes.
to look at now, so sorry. And good for you to speak up for yourself. Then on page 4, I don't know what happened with this thing. On page 4, there is a reference to the subpoena power of the special magistrates. Paragraph D2 designates that the city of Crescent City Police Department may serve subpoenas. That's on page 4, right up
We probably need to,
Yeah, we need.
we need to
near
change
the
that.
top. So I'm not sure anybody read this ordinance, but I do have some substantive questions about it. And I have always had substantive questions about this because it came up really quickly and we've not had anything in writing about what the costs were, although
Yes, ma'am, I have that, well, I haven't writing, but I do have it verbal.
what you shared with us about the cost, but, you know, to me, I'm just not sure that we 100% understand the implications of this. The part that concerns me the most with the straight magistrate model, and I understand, Ms. Phil has shared with me his concerns about, you know, the responsibility for a citizens board of imposing fines. But when you look on page 6, and it talks about the fines to be imposed, those are imposed by the special magistrate. As well, it's mandated in little 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs down, little w on page 6. This ordinance, from whatever city it came from, it requires the special magistrate impose all costs of the proceedings incurred by the city. So, and as well, then the next paragraph, little x, says that the fines imposed by the special magistrate will be final and can only be appealed to the circuit court. And it says the violators may make arrangements through the city manager to pay the fine in monthly payments. If they don't, basically the property can be foreclosed upon. I am really concerned in Little Crescent City, you know, we have a lot of properties that incur a lot of fines. Usually, at some point, if the property is up for sale, the abandoned properties, it goes to the code board for a reduction and then it comes to the city commission. And we usually make a reduction in fines. For example, there's a property on Central Avenue right now that has $160,000 in fines on it. So, you know,
Didn't we? I thought we did.
those have not been addressed
That
at all.
hasn't been addressed.
In fact, a property that is liened for that $160,000, and I went round and round about this with the mayor, we actually got $3,000.
Not with me.
Oh,
Not with me.
from a sale of
Verify that.
property outside the city limits. But anyway, so what I am saying is, I am not sure of the practical effects of this ordinance. Would we, I mean, essentially, we would be possibly imposing on small property owners. We have a lot of very humble properties here that change hands, as we've discussed in prior meetings. They change hands because family members die. There's an unclear ownership. The fines become quite large. I mean, essentially, we could find ourselves, you know, having not only fines, but the entire cost of proceedings. And then are we going to be able to, you know, to reduce fines as we do now?
I understand your concern. My concern is probably a concern that a lot of people in Crescent City have. We don't want to weaponize code enforcement. We don't want to make it so hard on people. However, we also need properties to get cleaned up. And right now, they are not. I mean, our code enforcement has been a little bit weak, and maybe if you want to reword that a little bit, I don't know if things have to come back to the commission or how you want to do this, but right now, with all the blight in our city, especially the vacant homes, yeah, there's a problem, and like you say, well, people die and they leave them to their kids, and some of these homes have been vacant for how many years? I hate to say, how many years have they been vacant? Long time. And that's not fair to the city. it actually keeps you know, what am I trying to say here? Well, the thing is if I have a vacant house right now on Florida Avenue, for example, Florida and North Prospect. When I first moved here, it was actually in pretty good shape. Well, now it's looking like a dump. And what it does is it causes the real estate, the price of my house to go down. And if you look at Main Street, which really needs to be revitalized, the whole street does. We can't just continue to let that go. We just can't. At some point, we have to draw a line in the sand and say, we need to get this, you know, resolved. Exactly.
If I may, my question was a technical question.
Okay, Mayor, could we, instead of adopting it tonight, continue it to the next commission meeting in August and let me and the city attorney work with Commissioner DeVito to clarify that, and she brought up a good point about the appeal probably would be better to the commission versus.
I was
circuit
thinking
court.
that probably would
Yeah,
be.
and so.
Just because we are a small community.
Yeah.
We are a small
We
community.
could do that.
But-
So we could,
fix that. But
and then we could bring back those revisions at the August meeting.
And
So we can just continue this. You don't have to we don't have to re-advertise it because
Right.
if you vote to continue it to the August time certain.
I think that's a good idea.
I do want to say something though, that as we go forward, that what my concern is you're right, they do bring it to, and people know that they'll bring it to the commission, and the commission is going to reduce it significantly.
Right.
And so we've got to make sure that we do something, that if we are going to be serious about taking care of some of this blight, that we have something in here that has some teeth in it.
Absolutely.
So that's something that we can work together, and even if we do need to workshop this, I mean, if we need to start, I know nobody wants to start over, but,
no, I think this is pretty
Yeah, I think
good.
we
can
I think that we
Okay, Mayor,
can,
could I say something in
Yes.
response to what you said? You were talking to the person who sat here and argued with Mayor Peterson for almost half an hour to get $3,000 out of a property north of town that was being sold
for two
to a
hundred
very
fifty thousand.
wealthy person.
I understand.
So I
I
am
remember that
all
property.
for getting the appropriate fines for the city,
Okay,
but I'm fully concur with
okay,
Mr. Leary's suggestion. We have to make sure that we are doing this the right way for Crescent City.
absolutely,
I agree.
absolutely.
I agree.
Okay, so do we have a motion to continue this?
Let's withdraw. We're already emotional.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, we haven't made a motion
Yeah.
yet.
then you-
We had we were in discussion.
Right.
So I'm gonna need a motion to continue this
Continue or
ordinance.
table. Which
I
one?
move that we continue the ordinance 2021-405 or 05, sorry, until our August meeting.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to continue in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion carries. Karen, when this goes on the agenda, it's gonna, I believe it's gonna come up as unfinished business or
Continue-
continued business.
continued business.
Continued business, okay, on the agenda.
Okay, so I don't have to advertise it, correct?
No.
Is that what I heard, Bobby? I won't have to
Okay.
advertise it again?
We never did continue.
Okay. Next on our list, is our potential city manager applications for interviews and selection. Mr. Leary, do you want to talk about
Well-
this a little bit?
Yes, commissioners, you received that there are 9 applicants that were in your packet. And so what we need to do now is you individually need to rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then decide, which of those or how many interviews you want to do. And we'll set those up for the afternoon of July the 20th. I will contact each of the applicants that are selected for interview and work out the logistics for what we'll do is an hour for each candidate, each applicant. And we can do easily do 4, on the afternoon of the 20th. So anyway, we'll do those, we'll tabulate them, or the city clerk will tabulate them in their rank, and then we'll we'll go from there.
Okay. Commissioners, I think before we do this, we do need to come to some agreement as to how many applicants do we want to whittle this down to? Do we want to take it down to 5? Is everyone in agreement to 5, or do you want to take it down to 4
I think we should
with an
start,
alternate?
I think we should start with 5 and you might wanna, from there, see what the 3, maybe bubble
Because
up
what
from
you
the
tend to
5.
have is somebody drop out. And
That
then-
was my next comment.
And-
You're not
and
gonna
so we
have
wanna
all
make
stay
sure we
in.
have
Okay,
enough.
let's make sure we
Yeah,
have enough.
that's true.
How
You
we-
guys have more experience.
How we wanna list them on last name or?
You can list it by last name, that's fine. Commissioner DeVito, do you have a question?
Well, I have a couple of comments. I asked Phil about this and he told me that by consensus, the commission voted to delegate the process to him.
And the city clerk.
And the city clerk, okay, and looking at the minutes. We previously voted to have the Florida League of City Senior Advisors advise us. So I'm not sure what happened to that. We voted on that. We never took a vote to not use the senior advisors. When I look at the charter, it seems to require that we take action by motion. I don't see any provision in the charter for consensus. I'm just saying that. And the thing, what I'm really getting to is the thing that concerns me about this process is the last time we did a city manager search and when we did the police chief search, we had some kind of vetting or review of the resumes before we whittled it down. Obviously, when you're paying a consultant $30,000, they do the vetting.
So I saved you $30,000, Commissioner.
That's true, but I'm saying, but there's a caveat in here. So it's my understanding from the interim city manager, that we have just received these resumes and we don't know any more about these people than what we have in the paper resume, except for the one you know, or the more than one that you know.
Or I've talked to, I think at least 5 of them on the telephone, just, them asking questions, assuring that we received their resume or their letter of application. And then what I plan to do is once the commission ranks them as to, who they want to interview, we'll do background checks. We'll order background checks on each of the people that agree to interview. And then you'll have that background information prior to the interviews.
Okay, and who, I know there's supposed to be a firm out there somewhere.
We've used, or the city's used a firm before we use that same firm.
Right, because I noticed, I mean, frankly, to me, I only have 3 candidates because I saw problems, like there were 3 people, I won't say who, that seemed to have experience, but when I looked at them, and this is why I'm a little concerned that we don't really have even a preliminary, who is this person, where do they come from? There were some people that had experience supposedly, but they didn't give any references like for the last 5 years. All their references were, so I know you said just $30,000, but then there's a little bit of unknown out there. And
Well, I agree, and that's something that, that I envisioned, that you go through this first interview process with having the background checks prior to the interviews. And then if there's any additional information, I can also ask the applicants to send references and any additional information that the commission would want individually or collectively on how many ever you decide to interview.
Right, and then there's 3, I mean, I kind of disagree with your determination of who's qualified, because I have 3 that when I look at the job description, I don't see them as being qualified.
And again, I wanted to make sure that the commission had the final say, that
Sure.
in my interpretation was it's better if they're even remotely qualified to let you as the commission review that and make that determination. And again, I'm trying to be very, very hands-off and not, be pro for any candidate, pro or con. So that's why you got the 9 applicants, which I agree with you that some of them don't meet the experience qualifications. They may meet the educational qualification. So that's why I let you make that decision. We received 15 applications, which I emailed each of those to the commission, but 6 of them were totally unqualified, didn't meet any of the requirements of the job description.
Okay.
And I think I don't remember it correctly, but the senior advisors that all they would do is basically, they're not weighing in on this at all. So as long as they met the requirements, then they were going to forward those to us as well. Is that correct?
And I did,
They said they would call through them.
They could, but
They said they would.
if they culled through these,
So yeah, I
you
guess,
might not have.
and not that, I'm trying to say that I'm as qualified as they are, but, I've had almost 40 years of experience. And I did talk to them. I talked to George at length, and they were just swamped with, they were working, I think, on 6 or 7 other larger city manager searches. And he said, I have no problem. In fact, I think you can do a good job.
right.
And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to help you answer them. So I did work with them on the peripheral.
Well, regardless of how we got here, I'm a little nervous.
We need a motion. We
Okay.
probably do need a motion. I agree with you on that. So we are gonna need a motion that we handle that in-house, that we do handle it in-house, just so that there's no question asked if the commission is so pleases.
Okay.
But at the same time, I do want to bring something up, and this might be a disqualifier just right out of the box for some of these is, I think we as the commission, we need to set a parameter here also in that our city manager needs to live in a reasonable amount of time to the city. And I don't know if that's 10 miles, 10 minutes. I know housing right now is difficult for people to find anywhere, but I think it's important that, and I'm just throwing this out there for commissioners, for you to
How long does it take
talk
for you to
about.
drive here?
About 40 minutes.
And that's Palaka?
Black.
Well, wait a minute, we did have that requirement, and for Mr. Esposito, because he was the second choice, we waived it for him.
Yeah.
Commissioner West, you remember that, don't you?
Yeah, we've always had that requirement.
Yeah, we always stated.
So I think that's something that when you're talking, when you're talking to the applicants, that they know. So what is the requirement? Is it within the city? I mean, I know right now it's going to be difficult to find property within the city.
I would say
But you
within
haven't
county.
driven around.
Yeah.
There's some nice.
I would
But
say
houses.
within
sometimes
the county.
within the county, now keep this in mind, within the county, that could be an hour drive.
Yeah.
They could live in Interlochen and that could take them an hour to get here.
I would say with about a 30-minute range.
Yeah, 30 to, like it takes them about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Then that's Palaka. Yeah.
You on the back side of Palaka?
I'm on the west side. I'm on the very far side.
Oh, okay, I would say 30 minutes.
Well, it takes
From
me about 30
downtown
minutes to get up
Palaka,
there,
takes
but
me
you know.
30 From downtown Black, you can make it here in 30 minutes.
About 30
Right,
minutes.
yeah,
But
right.
they choose to live in Malacca.
I don't understand what the problem is with requiring them to live here, because.
Well, I kind of do because there's not a lot to choose from.
There's not a
right now.
lot to choose from for housing.
No, there isn't.
But there are houses.
Well, there might be houses,
Yeah,
but you also
but
gotta remember how much
Houses,
we're
but that's,
paying.
yeah, and that's an investment that they have to make. I mean, our real estate market right now is.
It's tight.
It's tight the way it is, and the houses, I mean, some of these houses, they're not on the market a day.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
and they're gone.
So I'm riding my bicycle by some very nice houses that have been sitting there for quite a while. But I mean, to me, I would say that they need to live south of, for
Dunn Street.
sure, south of the Dutch Creek Bridge and north of State Road 40. I mean, I would set that as a absolute parameter.
North of State Road 40, could put them in Volusia.
I would say
Well,
they
what
need to live in
they
the
say about
county.
a 30-mile radius, and that's good, right there, that's Palaka.
I
That's
I
a
don't
company.
agree.
You have Malacca, then you have
Evacuators.
some food land. I
Yeah.
guess,
Right,
in
but
there.
the Dunn's Creek Bridge is a real cutoff because traffic, high winds, whatever. I mean, to me, I think it's very reasonable that they live south of Dunn's Creek Bridge because that means that they're much more.
I just think you gotta be careful telling people where they gotta live. And I think that you have to, I think Putnam County, it sounds like, boy, that could be, they could live in Interlochen. I think most people would make that trip one day, and go and look at Interlochen and say, well, I'm not living way the heck out here, and move it in just automatically, but
And then again, we gotta think about the applicant too, because now, you know, we've been in the paper quite a while, quite a bit.
Like somebody said they were surprised we got any application. Someone made that comment to me in Palatka
They-
on
And the person
on
that they gonna
Tuesday.
uproot, if he did 35, 40 miles from here, he just ain't gonna uproot and move to Crescent City, and they for sure, then he might be gone, like Michael,
we
in
also
a short
have.
while, so we gotta be careful about that.
We also, I mean, I understand what Commissioner DeVito is saying. There are a lot of homes here for sale, but a lot of them are sold, they're contingent, and then they drop. And there's a lot of reasons why that happens. A lot of times it's because they're older homes, there's problems with them. And people need to come up with cash, okay, because you can't get a mortgage on it. They won't insure them, okay? Insurance here in Florida is really tough. I mean, it's there, but now we're in the hurricane season, and now that Elsa just went through that whole week, that Elsa was in, knocking on our door, nobody could buy insurance. We've all been there, done that, and so there's a lot of, I mean, I like a lot of the houses here in Crescent City. We bought a home that was built in 1899 and redid it, but not everybody can do that either, because a lot of these homes need some work. And so I just think you can't tell people where they have to live.
I think though,
Love cities do.
I mean, in a perfect world, it would be nice if they lived in the city,
Oh,
if
yeah.
we had somebody in the city, but I think within a reasonable distance.
Yeah.
And the only reason I say this is, and I'll just be honest, I get phone calls at all hours of the night. And so I'm going to be very hesitant to call a city manager and have him drive 30, 40, 50 minutes here to go look at something that needs or address something in the middle of the night. And so it would just be, I'm just saying that,
Well, I'm hoping that those calls that you're getting in the middle of the night will
hoping they're
slow
not.
down.
I'm hoping they are too. I'm hoping they are
That things
too.
will definitely be better.
Well, so if I made a motion, I would say the city manager should live south of Dunn's Creek Bridge. That would be my motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so she has a motion. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion fails.
Well, Mayor, you brought it up, so see what you did to me. Stick my neck out there.
Okay, do we have another motion that we can,
I make a motion that we give the applicant at least a 35-mile radius.
What, 35?
Yeah, mile radius.
Okay.
do you want it within the county or do you care? if it's
Within
the
Putnam
county?
County.
Within Putnam County, yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion for a 35-mile radius within Putnam County. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Okay, the motion carries.
Okay, now we just need to rank them. Give them, if you have a sheet or something right on, we can give it to Karen. She can- Yeah, you can tabulate.
Okay, we didn't vote, Karen, we didn't vote on a motion for us to handle this in-house, did we? We didn't.
Yeah, I believe we did.
Did we motion? did we
How
make
did
a
it
motion?
go from city managers, the league of city managers?
It was
We did that and we'll handle this. We'll handle this.
Okay.
So we need to do
Formal.
to make it formal. Do we have a motion?
I so move
What do you so move?
that we handle,
Take it out of the shade and put it.
Ms. Sykes, I'm
Yes.
gonna ask you to hold your comments, please. Thank you. Okay,
that we're going to handle this in-house, right? And that we're going to have a 35-mile radius around the city
Just
in-house.
We
Okay,
voted on the other one.
Right.
okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, motion carries.
Oh, and before we vote, I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
I asked this of Ms. Hayes. Is there something missing from the resume of, I forget which one it was? It was either Mr. Rose or Mr. Boswick. One of these resumes didn't.
you last week.
Right, and it was, okay, but like there seemed to be something wrong, either with the way he sent it or the way it was received. There's something in there, because the pages, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. And the second page, actually, in one of the bullet points, about halfway down the page, a little more, says represents the city of Vermont. I mean, I guess we'll never know. Because there's no job in Vermont. It says he worked in New York, whatever. The PDF that Ms. Hayes sent me was just like the paper copy that I got.
Yeah, that's exactly what we
This
got.
is what we got. Okay, that's all I want to know.
speak
Okay.
Mr. Boswick?
Yes, Commissioner Burton.
Let me just say this, when I took a look at the application, I looked at it further. And this particular applicant really doesn't seem to exist. There is a Dr. Eric Boswick, who I forget exactly where it is, but he certainly isn't in Wantagh, New York. And this Eric Boswick has never been there. And the person in charge of that particular little city has been in charge of it for about 20 years. So there's a lot of things that are kind of messed up with that whole application. So I just think you should know that, whenever I look at things, I try to be very thorough. And we can give him a call and ask what kind of happened, but I wasn't very impressed that I couldn't find him.
I found it too. He has a 407 area code. In 407
That's Orlando.
Orlando, yeah, that's what I thought. So I thought that was odd too. He
But
had a
there's just
407.
something very odd about it, and you know, so I agree with you, Commissioner Vito, there's something very odd with what he's written.
Right, and that's my only reservation about not having any checking before we rank them, because that one just seemed, I don't know, it doesn't seem like I really,
It was pretty simple, you just put it on the bottom.
well, anyway, all right, so much for that.
Okay, do we have our, do we have our ranking sheets already?
Yes.
Yes. May I turn mine in before noon tomorrow, please? I want to go over this again.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna,
Yeah, we were trying to rank it tonight, so that.
you want to
we
go
could-
over it again?
Well, can we take a?
Yeah, we can take
We
a
can
break.
take, yeah,
Break.
can you take a, if we take a 15-minute break, will that give you enough time, you think?
No, but I'll do it.
Okay. Okay, I'm
I
going
want to go
to
over all of this.
take a 15-minute recess and we're going to adjourn. I mean, we're going to come back to order at 8:15. Okay. This is when I wish we had a coffee shop. I could get me a cup of coffee.
I could do not to get up here and do this. Everybody.
Just want to hold one and then sing into it every once in a while.
Gear shift. Starting and stopping.
Let me ask you something.
I've got a Keurig and I'm bringing it in. back in session. Okay, thank you. Okay, has everybody turned in their ranking?
Yes.
Okay, so you have
Our
that.
trustee accounting finance department will assist our city clerk in tabulating the results.
And while they're doing that, do you want to introduce Robin formally since she
You
now,
sure can,
why don't you? She's
because you're the mayor.
Robin.
Okay, just-
Just if you want to, everybody, this is Robin. If you haven't had an opportunity to meet Robin.
Last name, please.
Robin.
I met her today.
Yes,
Robin what?
Johnson.
Johnson.
And she is a new resident to Crescent City and to Florida.
Yes.
And so she just went through her
First
first
hurricane.
hurricane.
This was a baby.
Yeah,
This was a baby.
You went through the preparation.
I did get the flashlight.
Okay, well, then you're ready. Then you're ready for the rest of them. But Robin, we appreciate you being here and welcome.
Yes, well,
That's what you need.
Well, I had that. Cat food, yeah.
We'll sit down. I said, we'll sit down. You have no idea. In 2017.
that was a
That's
bad
why I
year.
got the flashlight.
Okay.
I was out of water and electricity 11 days.
Yeah.
And 3 hours. Yeah. Charlie, Jean, and what was the other one? Yep. And what, every 2 weeks, bam, another 2 weeks, bam, another.
Tell you one thing, you get some, you don't get nothing after you get some exercise. I said, if you don't get no exercise at home, you get some exercise.
It's a great place.
I can live in the dark.
They have the agenda posted for all that. They have on the,
Yeah.
so it's out there now.
You get your paper. You get your paper. You gotta get everything in.
Take a look.
Okay, so do you want to, while we're waiting on them, if there's a couple of things that we need to go over, is there something, Commissioner Brea?
Did you guys?
What is this? Then there's the broadband thing. What are those?
Yeah, I see them at
Okay,
broadband.
still is moving on.
Are we gonna have a discussion about that?
Probably.
What is this?
Probably not. We've got some, we have an issue with some tablets that are being supposedly to our low-income residents. But unfortunately, there's some questions about it because there's no credentials with it and they're being charged a $20 cash fee for activation. And so until we get some clarification and we have, the sheriff's office is looking into it for us now, as is Congressman Katz's office is looking into it. So we just wanted to make sure that y'all were aware of this. And that's the only letter that they provided, was saying that they're working under a government entity. It's a government giveaway. But this is all that they provided to Pam when she asked for credentials. They also do not have a license within the city.
Okay, so all these things go together.
Yes, that all goes together.
Oh, okay. Well, that's that. And then this other thing is Mr. Turner's.
And that was, yes,
Okay, thank you.
We need to change the name of the card, but we still got Michael's name on it.
On that,
The city card,
yeah, we need to change a few things.
Yeah.
probably.
What card?
the city card,
I mean, our
The pay-
business
pay-
cards?
yeah.
Terry Peacock. Make sure you
Put Robin's name in there.
Okay. Are we set?
he said that Michael's name is still, you can get with her after the meeting
Yeah.
to show that to her. Okay, thank you. Okay,
We have
Hayes, do we have
tabulation.
tabulation?
Ready to go?
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you for the interview selection, application list, number one applicant, Charles Rudd with 23. Foot, is that right? Foot with 10, Butterfield 9, Hayes 9, and Hart 8. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the top 5.
Like, who was
Name them
the,
off again.
yeah.
Rudd, Foot,
Rudd, Foot, Butterfield, Hayes, and Hart.
Do you have a question, Commissioner DeVito?
no, I just couldn't hear.
Okay.
So now we need to decide, or you need to decide.
One of those, I think, going to be some significant travel involved with that, so we need to make sure that before we pay for that.
If they're definitely interested.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, she's gonna, Spirit has very good airline,
From Michigan.
from Michigan.
Okay.
And she
So-
can fly right out of Lansing. Typically, I think Lansing, they have the airport, believe the airport's there.
So if they're still interested, you'd like to schedule interviews for all 5, correct? Or you like-
Commissioners, we in agreement?
Wait,
thought we
there's
were
a
gonna-
Hayes in there? Who's
Yeah.
Hayes? Pardon?
The entree Hayes?
Oh, DeAndre Hayes, there we go. Got it.
I thought we were one of the top 3 or what?
No, I think we should
No,
talk
we
to
said 5.
Talk to
5,
5,
Oh,
because 2 of them
okay.
might just fall.
yeah,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's happened before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
You want to do a motion?
do we want a motion to accept this?
Top 5 for interview.
I so move that we accept the top 5 to interview for city manager.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Okay, motion carries.
Make a call.
Okay. Is there any other business that the commissioners need to discuss at this time? Commissioner Burton?
No.
Commissioner Banks?
none at all.
Commissioner West?
I'm good.
Okay, Commissioner DeVito?
I had a couple of questions. I also heard through the grapevine that it's time to update our comprehensive plan and that something has already been forwarded to Tallahassee. Is that correct?
We, the evaluation appraisal report, and that essentially my workings with the North Florida Regional Council, they reviewed it, and what we're proposing to do is to come back. The regional council applied for a grant to work with us on updating the comprehensive plan, but we were doing that separate from the evaluation appraisal, because the evaluation appraisal report would have required us to do way more than what we could have done, and we would have had to do it without any type of grant or assistance. And so we're in the process now of working with them for that, and then subsequently, when we look to see if and what we need to do with the comprehensive plan, then that will be submitted as a overall plan amendment to the state. And then we'll come back once that's approved and then update our land development code to not just reflect changes to the comprehensive plan, but also updates to the code that need to be made.
So when does the commission get involved in this?
When we get the contract, or when we do the, when we get the grant, when the regional council gets the grant and we start that process.
Okay. When do you have an anticipated time?
Should be August, I believe she said, when I talked to Margot Maureen, the executive director for the regional council, they've applied for it. She expects to hear back, I think at either the end of this month or 1st of August.
Okay, and then as well, I was told that the county comprehensive plan, which has already been sent to Tallahassee, that at some point, the municipalities would be getting a letter from Tallahassee, giving
We haven't
them,
gotten that yet.
okay, we have not got. Okay, because apparently the municipalities have an opportunity to comment.
They do, and I did receive, per the statutory requirement, a copy of it. And, you know, I reviewed it. I didn't see anything in there that, you know, that I thought required any comment or anything, but we will get an official notification from the state once they have done their review.
Okay, and then, let's see. Okay, I think you reported that you are working on updated signage for our parks about the rules.
We have those, and we're just, we're waiting to change the ordinance so that we can put the fine on there that will be significant. So we put the actual fine for violating any of the rules on the sign.
Okay, because one question I have, and I have some comments about Eagle Lions Park, are you including the dog park in the parks that will get signed?
Yes, ma'am, all of them.
Okay, because a concern I haven't looked there lately, but there's people talk about this on social media. I'm not sure there's a sign at the dog park that says who to contact if there's a problem. You know, two different kind of problems. There's maintenance and then there's aggressive dogs. And, you know, people, whatever, I'll talk to you about that because just people just don't know.
So we need to post a number for maintenance and then another one for emergencies.
If there's a, you know,
Mhm.
a problem, but I'll write you a note about that. Then two things that I think will come up later. I do think we have an unresolved issue possibly with animal control, but I'll write to you about that. And then this we'll probably talk about it at the budget meeting. I know I saw an article in the paper that said the county is trying to figure out what to do about funding fire and EMS. And 2 years ago, was it? We dropped out of the MSTU.
2019, yeah.
So I'm thinking at some point we should talk about as a commission, do we want to ask do we want to express our continued views? We sent them a letter. It's my understanding that originally they promised us some developments in the future, but we might want to talk about that as a commission. You know, where are we and do we need to make our thoughts known again to the county? So, but I'm not proposing that we do
And I
that
think
right
if that's something that we do, that we definitely need to come in and have the chief, fire chief come in
now.
and
Right,
help
well, I'm
us.
thinking that'll come up at the budget
Yeah,
hearing,
that will.
and that will probably be the context for that. But anyway, so that was all I had.
Okay. That's it. Well, that's it. I think we're gonna adjourn this meeting at 8:26. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for sticking around. Ms. Sykes, I've got some paperwork for you. Sure.